Hello friends, happy Wednesday. So today's story is The Ugly Duckling, rewritten by Madge Tovey. Mrs. Duck was sitting on her eggs. Such lovely eggs, she quacked. I can hardly wait for them to hatch. Suddenly, she heard a cracking sound. The eggs were hatching. 5 fuzzy yellow ducklings tumbled out of their shells. Hop, 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 peep, peep, peep. Mrs. Duck beamed with happiness. But what's this? She quacked. There's one egg left. A great big one. And it's starting to hatch. The great big egg cracked open, and out tumbled the biggest duckling Mrs. Duck had ever seen. Hop, 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 peep, peep, peep. He was all gray with huge feet and a long, long neck. Does he look like all the other ducklings that Mrs. Duck hatched? He looks a little different. That very day, Mrs. Duck marched her new family to the pond. Look, smart duckling, she quacked. Feathers straight, beaks up, and feet turned out. Stay in line and follow me. Mrs. Goose, Mrs. Hen, and Mrs. Turkey were already at the pond with their babies. What a grand family of little ducklings, they called to Mrs. Duck. Then they saw the last duckling. What a long neck, honked Mrs. Goose. What big feet, cackled Mrs. Hen. What happened to his feathers, gobbled Mrs. Turkey. Oh dear, what an ugly duckling, agreed all the farmyard fowl. Poor little duckling. They're not being very nice to him. Just then, the ugly duckling tripped over his own big feet and fell on his beak, and everybody laughed. Poor ugly duckling hid his head under his wing. That was just the start of Ugly Duckling's troubles. Nobody in the barnyard liked him. The chicks wouldn't share their corn with him. The baby turkeys tripped him when he ran after a bug, and the goslings made him it whenever they played tag, and everyone pointed at his big feet and long neck. Ugly Duckling spent most of his time paddling in the pond by himself. He sighed when he looked at his reflection in the water. What's wrong with me? He asked himself. Why doesn't anybody want to be my friend? One day, a flock of birds with elegant wings, snowy white feathers, and long necks flew over the pond. Ugly Duckling had never seen anything so beautiful. Why couldn't he be like them? The days were getting shorter and the nights were getting colder, but Ugly Duckling was not welcome in the warm barn. He paddled across the pond and he hid in the long grass with his head under his wing. He stayed there through the long, icy winter. That's this page right here. So friends, what do you predict is going to happen with the Ugly Duckling? Do you think he's going to stay all alone? Or do you think all the other barnyard birds are going to welcome him back? Okay, let's find out. At last, warm spring days brightened the pond. All the barnyard fowl came back to swim and play and visit. Ugly Duckling had grown much larger. He stretched his long neck and glided into the water. Suddenly, he looked up. There were the elegant white birds he had seen last summer. They were swimming right toward him. "Oh no," sighed Ugly Duckling. "These beautiful birds have come to laugh at me." But the birds didn't laugh at Ugly Duckling. They swam all around him, making friendly sounds and stroking him with their beaks. He looked at their snowy white feathers, and he looked at the long, graceful necks. And then he looked at his own reflection in the pond. He had snowy white feathers. He had a long, graceful neck. And he was no longer an ugly, awkward duckling. He was a beautiful swan. The ducks and chickens and turkeys stared at the new swan. "He is the grandest swan I've ever seen," clucked a chicken. "Look at his lovely white feathers," gobbled a turkey. "What an elegant neck," quacked one of the ducks. "I wonder where that swan came from." Do you remember where that swan came from, friends? Okay. The swan swam and played with his new friends. He was beautiful now, but he would never forget how it felt to be an ugly duckling. And he would always remember that plain feathers can hide a noble heart. The end. So, friends, what if you were a bird that knew the ugly duckling when he was little? What is one thing that you would do to try and be his friend? Would you act like all the other birds? I hope not, because you should treat everyone with kindness. Miss Jamie loves you. I will see you tomorrow.